Welcome back. If you just joined us, we're looking at the negotiations that is being proposed by the federal government to the members of the Boko Haram sect. And we have been speaking with some of our guests who have been calling on the Google Plus Hangout. We'll continue from where we stopped.
I don't see what is wrong in Mr. President granting amnesty to this so-called Boko Haramis or terrorists or insurgents, whichever name we choose to call them. See, don't let us deceive ourselves. I've able to listen to the previous speaker, and I think one thing that I want us to identify very well is even the developed country, the Western country, France, Germany, America, name them, none of these great countries are able to defeat terrorists to the barest minimum point. Terrorism is more than what we think it is. Not to think of a country like Nigeria. If these people are providing us with a platform, a reasonable platform, a trusted medium of negotiation, why not we give them amnesty? So let us bring in Niger Delta issue into this. They're quite two different things entirely, which I perfectly agree. But let me give you a good example. I live in the Russian Federation, and we all know, the political scientists among us here understand that Russia once in their history suffered from terrorism. But how did they arrive at peace today? Why is Russia peaceful relatively to what it used to be in the past? Mr. Putin was able to have a reasonable negotiation, a reasonable program for the northern people, for them to allow peace in his country. It is not possible for any country to defeat terrorism. These people are wider than we expect. If they are giving the president an opportunity for peace, let him embrace it for the peace of the country, for the development of the country, not for any political gain or a political interest, but for the collective peace of the whole nation. I think I will advise Mr. President to embrace negotiation, to give them amnesty if it can be trusted and from a reasonable source.
So in terms of this amnesty, what I am saying is this, that the present government perhaps is thinking in this direction because there is a feeling. After all, before the last government was out, some people tried to negotiate a ceasefire with Boko Haram, which collapsed in their very face. And they were denying that it wasn't from the present government, it was from the president or the president of Chad or Sudan, who was discussing in Saudi Arabia with some people in the northern country. We saw this scandal, and they killed a lot of people because they neglected to take any action, because the military personnel or the military general, the chief of army staff, said, ceasefire, ceasefire, Boko Haram is going to negotiate. So it means that actually perhaps there was something brewing somewhere, that there's a possibility to negotiate. So now if this government sees the need to negotiate, we should not say that they are going to, another Haram is going to come from the west, another one. Until those ones comes, then we will deal with them. But this is what we have presently at the moment, and we have to deal with it.
The simple argument now is that we have a commander-in-chief who understands the nature of warfare, who's been there before, who himself is a wartime hero. So courtesy demands that commander-in-chief must use his experience to deal with these guys the same way he dealt with the Matassinis in the 1980s. We have dealt with them, then we can begin to talk of negotiation. Negotiation with the genuine demands of the Northerners. And that argument has to be very straight. There must be a very solid face to negotiate with. You cannot negotiate with a band of terrorists. No one does that. When you say America negotiates with terrorists, it's a different ballgame entirely. America will pound you, deal with you, subdue you, make you submissive, and then negotiate with you when you are weak. We cannot negotiate with Boko Haram now because they are still very strong. That's one. Whenever we want to negotiate with Boko Haram, it would be a very wrong procedural error for the state, for the Nigerian state, to negotiate with terrorists, negotiate with the leadership of the North. If it's going to be Arewa People's Congress or whatever name they call themselves, or whoever wants to show face in the North, let them come forward to say, we are genuine agitators for the well-being and the overall development of the North. This is what we want you to do for us. We can't fight, but we're only saying that you should look into these demands. That's two. Point number three, why would you grant amnesty to a group of people who are radicalized, one, and then who wants to Islamize the whole federation, when the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is very clear? The Nigerian state, under a Muhammadu Buhari presidency, has the required capacity to deal with Boko Haram and staff. And I will be disappointed. I've been one of his advocates all along. I'll be terribly disappointed if it goes to negotiate with that set without subduing them. And when eventually he does subdue them, he mustn't negotiate with whoever calls him or herself Boko Haram. He must negotiate with genuine agitators from the north who can be identified, who are legit, who are legal, who are recognized, and then we know those who are fighting with. Not a band of criminals who brandish themselves in the name of an ideology. I mean, it's off record for me. It's off table.
In my opinion, I am not against the notion of the amnesty if it will be transparent and if it is operationable, because the notion of amnesty is when a state decides that forgiving or pardoning citizens, it is of more good than punishing them. For the issue of Boko Haram, we cannot classify these people to be totally Nigerian citizens. It is a multinational. It spreads, this insurgency has now spread across to neighboring countries. So there is some lapses as regards. Are we going to give amnesty to militants who come from Niger and join Boko Haram? What is the transparency of the program? Whom is negotiating for the government and whom also is negotiating for the Boko Haram? And also, the notion of amnesty doesn't necessarily guarantee that after this amnesty has been granted, some people, some factions of these groups might not take up arms again. If you look at the Niger Delta issue, amnesty was granted, but we still have issues of pipeline vandalizations and bombings and kidnappings. So amnesty, in a nutshell, is not a guarantee that we will not have such insurgencies. What we should focus on more is increasing the state's capacity to respond to such groups when they spring up.
If the presidency deems it fit that negotiating with them could be of assistance to making sure, because Maitasini and Boko Haram, they are two entirely different ballgames. Boko Haram is international. Terrorism is something that takes place all over the world. The radicalization of minds. You see people who live in free states from the United Kingdom, from all over the world, who get themselves indoctrinated, and they are willing to go and kill fellow humans. This is terrible. It's a trend that is all over the world now. But looking at the Nigerian situation, we have to look for a way it's just a united Nigeria that is paramount to all of us. And the president speaking with them could help. And if that helps, it will be a welcome development.
Very well, guys. Thank you very much again for joining the program and sharing your thoughts. But that's where we have to hold it. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll be joined by a public affairs analyst and a lawyer, Wale Oshunde. Please stay with us.